Okay, today we're in Proverbs chapter 16 and starting with verse 16. Now, I've made comments about the book of Proverbs almost every class, and so I'm not going to keep belaboring that point other than to keep reminding us that the book is designed to tell us how to live in everyday life. If we were just to study this one book and do everything that the book of Proverbs tells us, our life would be almost perfect. We would not have one problem out of 100 million problems that normal people have because the book deals with so many different aspects of our life. Again, every verse has its own meaning. One verse will say one thing, the next verse might say something totally off of that subject, and then you get back on the subject. And that's the way the book of Proverbs is designed. It is made up of a lot of short sentences, and each one of these short sentences gives us a God-ordained way of living and solving our problems. Now, as we start today, we're going to start with one that just doesn't sound like it's right. I'm sure that all of us, as we look at it, think, I think maybe I could get along by doing it the other way. Now, what is it? Verse 16, how much better is it to get wisdom than gold? Yea, to get understanding rather than to be chosen, yea, to get understanding is rather to be chosen than silver. Now, stop and think about that and be honest with yourself. If you had the opportunity to be blessed with great riches, gold and silver, or with wisdom, so that you was a wise individual, which would you choose? Now you sit there and you think, well, I could sure use that gold. And if I had all of that gold and silver, I'm not sure I'd need wisdom. Because great riches, gold and silver, billions of dollars, pretty well solves all of our problems, doesn't it? See? I just can't think of anything that it wouldn't solve. See, we had this. That's the normal way of thinking. That's the normal way. And for us to turn it around and think like the proverb has said, we have to really think about it. We have to stop and say, you know, I wonder if this is really true. Because in this physical world in which we're living, what could be of more value than great amounts of gold and silver? But the proverb has said, wisdom. So if you ever get that choice, why take wisdom? Because wisdom will do so many other things for you that silver and gold won't do. But my point as we start out here, and the reason the Proverbs put this in here, is because we've all thought about how nice it would be to be rich. And especially as we're starting out in life. Haven't you thought as you're starting out in life, many of you, you might look at mom and dad, and you're just getting married, and you don't have a house. You don't have any furniture. And you look at mom and dad, and they have a nice car, and they have money in the bank, and they have a house. They really have more than what they need. Wouldn't it be nice if they would give that to you so that you could start out with quite a lot of physical things in life? See? Got Jared back there right now looking at his mom and shaking his head. And tell you, yeah, Mom, that's the way it is. He's an honest man. That's the way we look at things. That's the normal life on this earth. So what this verse is telling us is this. It's saying, I want to tell you a little secret. I want to tell you a little secret, and it's going to go against everything that you desire in your life. But if you will accept this and you will follow this, you can live a happy life. And that is that you put wisdom and understanding before anything else. Put it before riches or anything else, and set your life on desiring and trying to accumulate riches and understanding rather than silver and gold. Now, we spend a lot of time trying to accumulate silver and gold. We start every Monday morning, we get up, fight the traffic, go to work, put up with a lot of horrible things during the day, fight the traffic coming home, and the purpose for that was to accumulate some silver and gold. Now, how much time do we spend trying to accumulate wisdom and understanding? So, if we'll just stop and think about that and say, okay, maybe I do have it a little out of perspective. Maybe I don't spend enough time trying to accumulate that wisdom and understanding. Maybe I'm not spending enough time trying to fill my mind with good things and educational things and things that will help me. Maybe I'm spending all my time working for silver and gold and then spending the rest of my time trying to relax and enjoy it so I can get up tomorrow and do the same thing. Now, I'm just trying to put it in perspective that this is the way life goes in this world. So, he just gives us that real quick thing, just that real quick thing, and if we could put that in our life, how many problems that would solve. In verse 18, he said, "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Now, we spent a whole class period talking about pride and arrogance and haughtiness and so forth. And so here's another one of these verses that tells us about this situation, that pride and haughtiness and what it will do. Whenever we find ourselves filled full of pride and start thinking more highly of ourselves than what we ought to think, we're setting ourselves up for a big fall. We're setting ourselves up for a great disappointment in life. And so he gives us the attitude that we need to keep away from. And yet, again, like all things, the reason he's warning us about this is because it's such a normal thing. It's such a normal thing for us to think about really how great we are. I'm glad I'm not like this other person. Now, Jesus gave a parable about that, you know that, where the Pharisee comes in and prays, "Oh God, I'm glad that I'm not like this guy over here, you know, I do this and I do that." And he gives us that parable, and as we read it, why, of course, we shake our head, and most of us will say, "I'm glad I'm not like that Pharisee." See? Well, when we say that, maybe we better stop and think. That's all I'm getting at. This is just like silver and gold. It's something that goes on in our everyday life. So examine yourself. What do you think of yourself? How do you look at yourself in relationship to other people? Are you really happy that you're good looking and not ugly like other people? Are you happy that you have money and you've worked hard and you've saved it and you're not like other people? Are you happy that you have an education and you're not like other people? Are you happy? And we go on down the line. Are you happy that you have a good job and you're not like other people? This is what he's getting at. This is a lifelong battle that we have to fight. And we need to understand this, that when we start seeking silver and gold above that which is of the mind, understanding and wisdom, and when we have pride rather than thinking and putting the other better than ourselves, we're setting ourselves up for great falls, great disappointments in life. Now, at the beginning of this, I said, if we just study the book of Proverbs and put in our life everything that they teach, we would pretty well solve every problem we've got. Well, here's the two things that I mentioned this morning, and just think how many problems they would solve. It is better to be of a lowly spirit with the poor than divide the spoil with the proud. So here he goes back again to this attitude toward riches. It is better to be a person, if you're a lowly spirit, you're not haughty, you're not arrogant, you're a humble individual. It's better to be that kind of a person associating with poor than to divide the spoil, or that is, be rich with the proud, with the people that have the wrong, haughty attitude, and they have made great riches, and you're dividing it, and you're rich that's in there. So that's kind of the culmination here of these two things. How many problems that would solve in our lives if we just took those two things and really put it in our life. But here's what I'll do, and here's what you'll do. You probably go home today and not even think about these things anymore. Just put them out of your mind. And if you do think about them, you'll probably think about them and you'll think, boy, I know somebody that really should have been in that class today, and they should have heard that because they've got that very problem that he was talking about. That's generally the way we handle all this kind of stuff. And that's the reason we have some problems. Okay. Let's skip on down. I'm going to start skipping some things and trying to pull out Proverbs that have quite a lot of meaning to us. And most of these are self-explanatory that we have. But he says, down in verse 23, the heart of the wise instructeth his mouth, and addeth learning to his lips. So now we're back again to that wisdom idea that's there. And the heart of the wise instructeth his mouth. If you are a wise person, and you're able to see the end from the beginning, that wisdom will instruct your mouth. Now, we've all heard about the old saying, well, that guy, puts his mouth in how is it? He puts his, he starts his mouth before he puts it in gear or something like that. Before there's a connection to the brain. He just starts talking. If we'd always come back and start out with our brain instead of our mouth, rather than start talking, if we could start here with our brain and let our brain instruct our mouth. Let our brain, our mind, tell our mouth what to say, rather than just letting our mouth run off without instruction really from the brain. So that's what he's saying. If you're wise, then you're going to instruct your mouth. You have control of your mouth. You'll be able to say what you should be saying, and you'll add learning to your lips. When you do speak, it will show that you have learned a lot of things, that there have been a lot of learning that's going on in the answer that you give. Now, in the answer that you give and what you talk about, as you're giving people these words, pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones. So as you're talking with people, he said, and you do it with this wisdom, you do it with this learning, you do it with your thinking, then pleasant words are going to come forth. Rather than hurtful, cutting remarks, it will be pleasant words. It'll be words like Paul talked about, let your words be always with grace, seasoned with salt. Let them be words that will build up rather than tear down. So he said, when you speak these kind of words, pleasant words, they are as a honeycomb. They're sweet. I suppose all of us have gone to the fair, at least the one in Puyallup, and you go by and there's a stand there, and it's with the honeybees. And they have honeycombs for sale. And you look at it there, and look at it, it's almost impossible to pass up without buying one of them. So you can start chewing on it. The one thing you think about honey, what is it? You can't think about honey without thinking about one thing. Sweetness. It's sweetness, how sweet it would taste. That's the way words will be. If we have pleasant words, they will be sweet, they'll be desirable to anybody that hears them in there. And they're sweet to the soul and health to the bodies. Pleasant words will affect your mind. They're sweet to the soul. They cause your spirit to be happy, and they cause health to the body. It's kind of interesting. You might stop and think about that, and read up on it. And you could go to school and get a doctor's degree on this one thing, and that is about the body and the soul, the spirit that you got, your mind, and your body, and how they're interconnected, and how if a person has the right disposition, the right attitude, saying the right words, their body is going to be healthier than if they do it otherwise. Now, you might say, oh, I doubt that. No, that's just a proven fact, that the attitude and the disposition and the way we talk has a great deal to do about our physical health. And that's what he's telling us right here. 25, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. This is one that all of us have heard 10,000 times. But we don't take it to heart, I don't think, like we should. Now, as we look at it, we can see there is a way which seemeth right unto man. Now, if I were to ask you, how many things have you done in the last week that didn't seem right to you? Or if I said, why did you do a certain thing? Was it because you thought it was right or wrong? Well, you'd always say, well, I did it because I thought it was right. In fact, everything I've done, I thought was right. But now, I can start looking at my life, and I can start looking at it in any realm. Doesn't make any difference what realm it is. Let's take the realm of fixing a car that's broken down. I used to work on cars a lot. And how many times have I fixed a car and I did what I thought was right, but it turned out to be wrong and it wouldn't run because of what I did? Or how many times have I been working on the front porch and replacing a board, and I go to the lumber yard and I buy a board, I bring it back, I measure, I go over and I start cutting. Now, if you stop me right there, right in the middle of cutting this board, and you said, Lowell, are you cutting it in the right place? What would I say? Yeah. There is a way which seemeth right unto man. Yeah, this seems right. Yeah. Well, could it be wrong? I go ahead and cut it, take it over, fit it in, and it's 6 inches too short. How many times has it happened to you guys? All the time. And I'm sure with you ladies in the kitchen or in your cooking or in your sewing or whatever it is that you're an expert at or you work at, you find, yeah, these things happen. There is a way which seemeth right, but the end thereof is wrong. Now, this right here is not talking about cutting boards. It's just an illustration. It's talking about the way of life. It's talking about the way I live. There is a way which seems right. This seems to me like the right lifestyle. It seems to me like the right way that I should live. But the end thereof is the way of death. It's going to take me down to eternal damnation. It's going to lead me into sin. Oh, it seems to me like it's the right way, but as I walk down that way, that seems to me like it's the right way, will lead me down into a way that will condemn me. So we need to back up and we need to say, how many times have I cut that board and I found out it wouldn't fit. And it's just over, 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 over again. Well, how many times have I decided I will do something in life? This is what I will do, but the end thereof won't fit. It's the way of death. So it's a pretty big proverb. And he says it about 3 times in the book here. He'll be repeating it and telling us this very thing. So it's worthy for us to stop and understand. 26. The appetite of the laboring man laboreth for him, for his mouth urgeth him thereto. This is a good one. But you got to stop and back up and look at it and think about it and say, what does that mean? Well, the appetite of the laboring man laboreth for him. The appetite of a laboring man laboreth for him. What does it mean? Well, man goes out tomorrow, and he's a contractor, and he's working on houses. Working out in the mud, digging a ditch, whatever it is. Now, every laboring man runs into jobs that are just totally unpleasant. They are cold, miserable jobs that you just hate to jump into. But there's one thing you have that makes you jump in, and that is your appetite. If you don't jump in and you don't do the job, you don't eat. See? It's just that simple. So, tomorrow you go out and there's a ditch to be dug, but it's full of water and mud, and you say, I'm not going to jump into that, and so you quit your job, go home, you don't get any money. You don't have any dinner that night. The next day you go out and it's still water and mud, and you say, that thing is so cold, I don't want to get into that thing. You go home that night, you don't have any dinner. You don't have any money to buy it. Now there comes a point when your appetite is going to cause you to jump in that mud hole and do whatever is necessary. It really is a fact of life that all labor comes back around to the food that you put in your mouth. That's what stimulates you. That's what causes you to really work. And anything in excess of that is just something out here that's not really a stimulating factor whatsoever. It's that food that you put in your mouth. You stop and think about it. What do all mammals labor for? As you look at nature and you take every living creature, what do they labor for? What is necessary for them? Every day, it's to put food in their mouth. So what he's saying is, the appetite of a laboring man will labor for him. That will stimulate you. That'll cause you to work, for his mouth urgeth him thereto. It's your mouth that's going to urge you to get busy and do that, because if you don't do that job, you don't get paid, and if you don't get paid, you don't eat. Now, remember what Paul said about this? There were people at Thessalonica that didn't want to work. They wanted to just live off of their brethren. And he says, if a man won't work, neither let him eat. Now, what would be the outcome of that? See, that was Paul's solution. That if a man won't work, don't feed him. Don't pay him. Don't give him money if he won't work. If he just wants to live off of it, don't give him anything. You say, yeah, but he's really hungry. Okay, that's what Paul's talking about. He said if he won't work, then let him starve. Now you say, boy, that's cold. Boy, that's harsh. Wasn't Paul mean? No, you put that with this and you see this. Paul said, here's the cure for a guy that's begging. Here's the cure for somebody who won't work. Here's the cure for a laboring man. Here's the cure for somebody that won't go out and do what they're supposed to do. What is the cure? It's not giving them more money. The cure is don't even give them any food. And you'll see that that man in a day or two will be out working. So you sit back and you think about that. And you scratch your head and you say, that settles some things. That tells us some things. Paul wasn't so mean after all. What Paul was doing was just telling us, here's the divine solution. I want to give you the divine solution in how to deal with the person who won't work. Now, there are a lot of people who can't work. That's not what he said. He didn't say people who can't work. People who are absolutely necessary and they can't solve their problems by working. Might be 1,000 reasons why they can't work, but that's beside the point. One who won't work. The solution is his mouth. He'll start working when he gets hungry. So that's what it says here. Now in verse 28, we're going to pick up a proverb that there are several proverbs that have to do with this same subject. It's a different subject. They have to do with it. A perverse man, that is a man that's not honest and upright, a perverse man scattereth abroad strife, and a whisperer separateth chief friends. Here are two statements saying the same thing. And they're things that go on all the time. Now you take somebody who is not a real righteous person. They're a wicked person. Well, what do? Well, they scatter abroad strife. They're the people that cause us trouble. You might examine people as you go through life, and you notice that there are some people that wherever they are, there seems to be trouble. Seems like there's trouble wherever they are. Now, there just might be a reason for that. And that is, as he says here, and it is, they go about and they scatter abroad strife. They're not living the way they should live. They're not talking the way they should talk. And as a result, as they go through life, it's just kind of like taking seed and planting it wherever they go. Just wherever they go. If I took 100 pounds of seed, everywhere I go tomorrow, I take this seed and I just scatter it along. So I'm walking wherever I am, I'm scattering my seed. Well, whatever that seed is, you're going to see the fruit's going to start growing up. And a little while, you're going to know what's in that sack. And a little while, you're going to say, you know what Lowell had in that sack? He had weed seed. Well, how'd you know? Because that's what follows me everywhere I go. And so it is that if strife, troubles follow me, maybe I better stop and think. The problem just may be with me. Then the end result is this, and a whisperer separateth chief friends. You can take somebody who is a whisperer, somebody who goes about and repeats things. They repeat little bits of gossip that they hear. What's the end result of that? What's the end result? The end result is never good. It's never good. So when somebody comes, did you hear about what's, and so they start, and this whispering campaign starts. It's never good. What's going to happen is it's going to separate people who are very good friends. The end result will be they will be separated and no longer at peace one with the other. Now, keep that in mind, because that's going to come up again and again and again. In not the same words, but the same subject matter of how we go about and we can sow strife in our life. But the clock says, Lowell, shut up. Class is over.